The Miami Dolphins offensive line has been decimated. How will that impact their matchup against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football? And how should that affect the way we build our DraftKings Showdown lineups? I'll get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching GameScript. Today's episode, I'm looking at Thursday Night Football, Week 3, between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. We got a 49.5-point total, with Buffalo as 11.5-point favorites in this one. And they're 11.5-point favorites because Miami's been struggling like this year. Tua has been struggling. The offense has been struggling. They've been dealing with a ton of injuries. And there's a lot of questions on whether the head coach of the Dolphins is going to survive this year and maybe even this week. They face off against their division opponents in Buffalo. And Buffalo has come out of the gates strong. They've won a tough game against Baltimore, and then they beat the division opponents in the Jets last week. And they look like they're rolling. So it's a couple of teams in opposite directions. Going to get into building some DraftKings Showdown lineups. Before I do that, make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 50 likes to put my favorite picks in the comment section. In the 2-game slate last week, I got 3 out of the 4, and the guy that didn't hit was Emeka Egbuka, who actually ended up scoring a touchdown, and he scored a decent amount of points anyway. It's just not enough to get him in that perfect DraftKings lineup. But we'll try and get it in this one. We'll go 4 for 4. And hopefully get that captain again. We've been getting the captain a few times so far, but you got to hit the like to get that. Looking for 50 likes. Also subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to subscribe because I have a secret weapon that I'm going to be unveiling in the next couple weeks. It's going to be a tool that I use to pick a lot of these random picks that you see me pick. I was the first one on Chase Brown. Had him before he broke out when Mixon was still the starter over in Cincinnati. And the reasons why I picked that was because of alternative media sources that I was looking at. And I'm going to bring those to you in my secret weapon. But you got to subscribe because I'm going to be offering a free beta version to my YouTube subscribers. So make sure to subscribe. And plus, I'm looking for 1,900 subscribers by the end of week 3. I believe I need about 50 more to get there. So help me get there. I'm trying to ultimately get to 2,000, but I'd like to get to 1,900 by the end of this week. So appreciate that, guys. Let's take a look at the DraftKings situation. If you notice on my screen, I also have promo codes for Underdog. You bet $5, with Underdog, you play $5, you get $50 in Underdog funds. And with BetMGM, you use the promo code HEATER1500, and you're going to get a risk-free bet up to $1,500. So if you bet $100 and it ends up losing, they're going to give you $100 in in free bets. With Underdog, you get that $50 automatically when you bet or when you play $5, and you're going to use the promo code SEEK on that. So SEEK for Underdog and HEATER1500 for BetMGM. So we'll dig into this player pool. Before I do that, let's take a look at the injury situation because the injuries are important in this one. They're important in all of them, really. A lot of people skip over injuries, but I like to go through them because that's how we find our captain options that nobody's really on top of. So I'm going to go over to the Buffalo Bills here. We'll take a look at the Bills first. You can see the offense looks pretty good, just like a depth issue on their right tackle. But if you look at their defense, we're looking at Ed Oliver is out, Matt Milano is out. That's 2 big injuries right there. Ogunjobi is suspended, and Dwayne Carter is on IR. So their entire left defensive tackles are out. And we got on the defensive end, we got Michael Holt out, suspended. So missing another guy there. Like Greg Rousseau looks like he is good to go. Like he hasn't really done anything this year yet, but maybe this will be the game where he comes alive. This could be the perfect opportunity for him. Matt Milano is also out. That's a big one for the Bills with their communications. Shaq Thompson is questionable, so their linebacker situation is looking a little bit struggling. Max Hairston is on IR. We got Tre'Davious White back this week, and Taron Johnson is also questionable. Taron Johnson's going to be a big one for the slot receivers of the Miami Dolphins. So we want to keep an eye, especially out for that. Cam Lewis questionable. So a lot of injuries here on the defense of the Buffalo Bills. But that's unfortunate because if you look at Miami's offensive line, we're missing Austin Jackson on IR, James Daniels on IR, Andrew Mayer on IR, a bunch of guys on IR. They already had a difficult time when they lost Teron Armstead this offseason. Last season, if you look at Tua's splits with and without Teron Armstead, he had about twice as many sacks when Teron Armstead was out last year, and now he's retired, so he's not even on the team. So Miami was already having a rough time trying to adjust to that. But then you throw on, we're missing Austin Jackson and James Daniels. So we're missing other components of their offensive line. It's going to be a rough scene for the Miami Dolphins offense this week with Tua's inability to play under pressure. Basically, he cannot play under pressure. And when your offensive line is decimated like this, then that is not a good thing. On top of it, we got Chop Robinson questionable, Benito Jones questionable. We got Ifuto Melifanu is out. That's one of their safeties. That's something that we've targeted tight ends a lot when we see these starting safeties out. Storm Duck, the right cornerback, is out. Artie Burns, look at this nickelback situation. Artie Burns, Jason Maitre, and Kader Kohu, all on IR. Jason Marshall's the only guy left. I believe he might be a rookie. Let me check and see what that situation is. Yeah, he was drafted. He's a 5th round rookie as their last man standing with these nickelbacks. So that's something that we want to keep in mind for Khalil Shakir on this slate. Now, Khalil Shakir did not do a whole lot this past week. We'll take a look now at these players. Shakir did not do a whole lot this past week, and he only had 2 targets, 1 reception for 12 yards. A couple weeks ago, when they played against Baltimore and they needed to throw the ball a lot more, he had 6 receptions on 9 targets for 64 yards. So Shakir has not really been a factor this year yet, which could mute his ownership a bit. I'm going to take a look and see if I can get an idea of what his ownership is, if I can find it. I'm recording this early on Thursday, so the information might not be out yet. Yeah, I'm not seeing ownership information yet from my usual source. I'll check over on Roto Grinders to see what they got going on. Roto Grinders, I like using their optimizer. I've just always used it, and if you sign up for Roto Grinders, you can get like all that sort of information, like their ownership information. So we'll check here. Going to see what the captain's ownership is. All right, so I'm looking at Shakir with about 5% ownership. So, his inability to break out so far this season, or his lack of a breakout this season is going to be for Khalil Shakir's potential captain ownership at 5%, according to Roto-Grinders. We got Josh Allen. He's going to be the highest owned guy, but he's dominated. He's dominated Miami in the past. Kind of get a look. According to Rich Rebar, let's see. I thought I saw something where he scored probably about 26 DraftKings points. He's averaging 27 DraftKings points a game against the Dolphins. We already saw this past couple weeks. Daniel Jones and Drake May, two other dual threat quarterbacks. Daniel Jones had 29.5 points against them, and Drake May had 26.3 points against them. So, Josh Allen just set up like to be the highest scorer on the slate. He's a guy that we probably don't want to fade. If you want to play him in the captain, he's going to be the highest owned. I see about like 22%. I wouldn't be surprised if he's much higher than that. we got Devon Achane against that situation with the Bills defensive injuries. Achane, I think he's going to be used pretty significantly in the passing game in this one. We saw last week he had 10 targets for 92 yards and a touchdown. If you look at the running game, like with all those offensive line injuries, 7 rushes for 55 yards in week 1. That's pretty good with the 8 yards per carry average, but not a whole lot of rushing attempts in that one. 11 for 30, so not as good against New England. And he was more used in the passing game in that one, but he had 26 points and 16 points. That passing game situation with Achane is saving his last couple season. Actually, last season he was a big part of the passing game, and we see it again this year. And I would imagine that those injuries to the Bills defense, we'll go revisit those real quick. They are mainly injuries that would affect the running back position already. So we got Matt Milano out, and Teron Johnson, he's questionable, the nickelback. Achane's running a lot of his routes out of the slot. So if that if Teron Johnson is out this week, I think that's even better news for Achane. He makes a good captain option for us, but he's also going to be an obvious captain option. Let's see what his ownership is. Yeah, he's going to be about probably a minimum of 13% where I see him now. If he's at 13%, that'd actually be a pretty good value, but I'm not buying that he's only going to be 13%. James Cook, he's another guy that should benefit from these injuries. He's had a great season so far. We're looking at 29.5 points and 21.2 points. Just been on a tear so far this season. Had 21 rushing attempts for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns last week versus the Jets. Not a whole lot of usage in the passing game yet. And I don't think that they're going to need him much in the passing game this week either. So James Cook, he only played 3 quarters in last week's blowout win. So he's at risk of, and all these starters for the Bills are at risk of not making it through the full game. They're coming off of a short week, and I would not be surprised if they have an opportunity for rest in this game. Tyreek Hill, kind of in meltdown mode, but he had a decent game last week. He had 109 yards, 19.9 DraftKings points. Tyreek would make an interesting captain for us if he comes in at low ownership. I see him under 10%. So we want to keep an eye on Tyreek's ownership. He's just kind of been in a meltdown mode, like ever since the end of last season. He was fed up with the Dolphins last season, and that caused some strife with Tua. And we've been seeing him trying to repair that all off season, and now he's dealing with domestic abuse accusations by his ex-wife. So Tyreek is on meltdown alert. I don't know if he's going to last on the Dolphins this year. Could end up getting traded before the deadline, or if he's not suspended. So keep an eye on Tyreek there. We got Tua Tagovailoa. We saw him have a decent week last week, 22.6 DraftKings points against New England. The Raiders also did good against New England, though, so there's not much to say about that defense. But, with the injuries to the Bills defense, that puts Tua in a little bit better situation. But like I said, like all the injuries to the offensive line, he's probably going to be under a lot of pressure. He's probably going to get sacked a bunch in this game. And with Tua's concussion history, he's probably playing with PTSD, especially when you see his line falling apart around him. So, Tua, I would worry about Tua in this game tonight. He's only got 3 touchdowns on the year on top of it. We're looking at Jalen Waddle. Waddle's in an interesting situation with the injuries to this Bills defense. I think with his his slot routes, that'll make him an interesting play this week. Tyreek runs routes in the slot as well. So like their main slot receiver or supposed starting slot receiver is Malik Washington. Malik Washington, I believe this is his second year. Didn't really do much last year. Last week he had 2 targets, and week 1 he had 5 targets. So we might see some targets out of Malik Washington. I think that injuries are going to affect more Devon Achane than it will Malik Washington. I think Achane is kind of the de facto slot receiver, so I would look to him more, but Malik Washington might be a good guy for us for salary savings. He is at, if we go in the flex, about 3,200. Keon Coleman had that breakout week in week 1. We had him in the captain, and he scored 28 points for us. This week, not too high on the Bills passing game, just because I don't know how much they're going to be needed. Last week, he, in that blowout game, had 3 targets, 3 receptions, and 26 yards. That is kind of what we're used to seeing out of these Bills receivers, which makes them such tough starts unless they're in a competitive matchup. Same thing can be said about Shakir. Only 2 targets last week when they beat the Jets 30-10. Skipping down to the Bills defense. Bills defense is in play. I think they're going to get a lot of sacks on Tua this week. They're at 5,200. Dalton Kincaid is also in play. Let's see what the tight ends have done against Miami so far. All right, let's look at week 1, Miami versus who they play week 1, Indy. Oh, this is when the rookie tight end had his breakout for the Colts. Tyler Warren had 10, played in 10 plays. He had, this is 10 plays where he touched the ball. He had 1 rush for 3 yards. He had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 76 yards, and did not have a touchdown in that game, but he got a lot of targets. And so that's a tight end getting targeted against Miami's defense. Let's take a look at week 2, see what Miami's opponent did. And that was New England in that game. I don't remember Hunter Henry doing much in that game. He had 3 targets, 3 receptions, and 38 yards. So not horrible, but not what we would want for Dalton Kincaid this week. But Dalton Kincaid, 6 targets in that game against the Jets last week and 4 targets in week 1. So far, he's the most consistent receiver for the Bills this week so far. Let's take a look and see. Maybe we can get an idea of what he's done in the past against the Dolphins. Let's take a look at his track record. Obviously, they've faced off against each other a bunch of times. Let's sort this by opponent. Let's go to Miami. All right, so he's had 10 targets, 4 targets, 8 targets, 5 targets against Miami. Biggest week was probably the week he got 8 targets. He had 7 receptions for 84 yards. Yet to score a touchdown against them, but you can see he gets targeted against Miami for whatever reason. All right, so let's go back over to Kincaid. We'll keep Kincaid as an interesting play this week. Prater is going to be interesting this week as well. He should get some run in this one if they're not scoring touchdowns. Um, Palmer had 9 targets in week 1, 3 targets last week. He's done pretty good. Like he had 61 yards in week 1 and 47 yards last week. So he's been getting probably more yardage than these, most of the Bills receiving core. Patterson, the other kicker. Both these guys are backup kickers. We got Elijah Moore also in that slot role for the Bills. 1 reception, 31 yards last week. Only 1 target in week 1 as well. So he's not getting a ton of usage, but he's getting on the field a lot. Let's take a look at real quick. Let's take a look at snap counts for these guys on the Bills. That'll help us out too. I want to look at wide receiver. We'll sort by team. Looking over at the Bills, we see Elijah Moore was on the field 40% in that blowout win, only 14% in week 1, 50% for Coleman after 88% in week 1 when they were more competitive. And Shakir, same thing, 71%, drops down to 49%. Joshua Palmer went from 62% to 51%. Shavers went up from 20% to 33%. Keep that in mind with Shavers, 33% snap count last week in a blowout, and Elijah Moore 40%. So all these guys were basically leveled out when they had that blowout win last week. That's going to be important for us to keep in mind if we're looking for value. Dolphins D, don't really want any part of the Dolphins D probably with their injuries and Buffalo's situation just being 0 points and 8 points. I wouldn't be surprised if there's negative points this week. Jalen Wright has not played yet. He was on the injury report for the first couple weeks. I think this is his first week. Yeah, this is his first week playing. Ray Davis had 9 rush attempts for 24 yards. Now, if he's playing cleanup, he's at 2,600. Ray Davis is going to be interesting for us this week. He could easily score a touchdown in the 4th quarter against this team. Dawson Knox, 5 targets last week as well. Josh Allen targeting his tight ends this season. So Dawson Knox, another cheap guy in play. Ollie Gordon had 2 attempts and 1 attempt. Has not scored a touchdown yet, but I believe his attempts were in the red zone or like in short yardage situations. So he's a guy to keep in mind at 2,200 if they can get to the end zone. Nick Westbrook Achane, 3 targets and 2 targets. He was a guy they brought on from Tennessee. Has not really done too much. You see it often with Miami. Like it's kind of they stick with their base offensive players, and the outsiders have a little bit of difficulty getting in unless you're Jonnu Smith. Last year, he had a decent showing as their tight end, but he was playing a tight end position, not a backup wide receiver. And they needed a tight end, and then they let him go in the offseason for whatever reason. Ty Johnson did not get as much usage as we saw out of Ray Davis last week, but I think he's mainly used in the passing situations. And here we got the starting tight end for Miami in Hill. Julian Hill could be interesting when those Matt Milano and those other injuries. Let's take a look again at those Buffalo injuries. Because if we're in a situation where Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, the safety situation, there are a little bit depth issues on the safety situation. So not a whole lot there that would sell me on starting a tight end that's not getting any usage for Miami. Curtis Samuel did not play. Maybe he was a healthy scratch. And going down further, I'm not really seeing anyone noteworthy unless we see one of these guys randomly. There's Shavers. He's at 200. 2 targets last week. Keep an eye on inactives. I don't even know if Shavers is going to be active, but if he is, if we're predicting a blowout, that'll help us find some salary savings there, and without taking a complete potential zero. All right, let's go to building this lineup. All right, so the obvious captain is going to be Josh Allen. We get Allen and Achane. I probably want Allen and Achane on most of these. Let's get Cook in there as well. It's not leaving us much with salary, but if we put in Shavers, this is projecting basically the blowout here. If we put in Shavers and we wanted to put in, we wouldn't be able to really get Tyreek in this one. Waddle, we could get in there potentially. If we put in Waddle, leaves us with 1,000, and very slim pickings there. So let's get away from Cook here. Let's go with Kincaid. So we got Allen to Kincaid. We got Achane. Let's get that Bills defense in here as well. They're going to be high owned, but this is more of a chalky build. Let's get maybe Ray Davis in this one, assuming it's a blowout situation. And then at least this way we have Coleman or Shakir if we wanted to get another pass catcher in there. That also and Palmer, honestly, that helps out with the Allen captain situation. So decent build there, and I think all of this is realistic for a blowout. The story we're building here is Allen is having a huge game, as he usually does against Miami. His pass catchers are Kincaid and Davis, and the Bills defense is taking care of Miami, who's doing a bunch of dump offs to Devon Achane, and it leaves us with enough salary left over to do a 5-1 Buffalo build. If we wanted to do that, we could put the kicker in there as well, potentially, and just go that route. If we put the kicker in there and took out Davis, like we'd have 4,400. We could get a double kicker situation. We put Elijah Moore in there. Leaves us with some more options. We got Malik Washington. If you believe that, he'll get some work in this one. Let's clear this. Let's put Achane in the captain in this one. All right, so Achane's in the captain. Let's say Tua isn't. He's still got some life in him, but let's get Josh Allen in there. Let's put Tua and Waddle in this one. Tyreek has historically not done well against Buffalo. I think his most yards is like 82 yards or something like that. If we scroll down, let's get Davis in this one too. Yeah, doesn't leave us with much to work with there. Let's put this one a little bit trickier. Let's take out Waddle, even though I like having him in there. Let's go with that Bills D. Let's go with Kincaid again in this one. He's the most consistent pass catcher uh, for the Bills so far this year. Although if this is going to be more competitive, then let's say we can get let's get Kincaid in there. Like it's a more competitive game, but we can still use Kincaid in that situation. And let's say since we got Allen not in the captain, they're scoring more field goals in this one, and leaves us with 1,600. So we got a few options there. We got that tight end for Miami. We got Ty Johnson. If they need to lean on the passing to running backs more, and then we got just a few scrubby options in there. If we wanted to do our play where we're putting Shavers in this one, it leaves us with 6,400. But Shavers doesn't really fit this script as much because this is not a blowout script. But that leaves us at least with like Bills D, Prater, couple options there. All right, so let's say that this is a blowout with Achane. Let's get Achane back in the captain. We're saying that this is a blowout. So Allen, we're going to put in there, and Cook. We're going to get those guys in there for the guys who are doing most of the work in this blowout. We got the Bills D. Leaves us with 2,500 per guy. We can get Shavers in this one as a blowout. 4,800 it leaves us with. We got options like Palmer, Patterson, Elijah Moore, the other guy that we saw used in the blowout last week. And, Ray Davis. Ray Davis is probably the guy I'd go with here. In fact, if we wanted to put Ray Davis in there instead of Cook, leaves us with 12,800. We could get Tyreek and other options in there. But I like Cook better in this one. He showed that a huge week last week and that blowout too. All right, so let's take a look now at an alternative world where the Dolphins are competitive. This one I like Achane as well. And let's get Tua. Josh Allen is kind of a no-brainer in all of these. Let's get Waddle in there. It's gonna be it's gonna be tough. Like here, let's put Waddle on the captain instead. Let's get Waddle, Tua, Allen, Achane. Leaves us with 2K per guy. Maybe we want to go a little bit cheap here. Let's go back and look at what the snap count is for Miami. I want to see how many snaps Westbrook Akine's getting. He's gotten 44 in week 1, 28 in week 2. Malik Washington, 61%. If we put him in, leaves us with 1,000. Not a ton of options there. Kind of brings us to that Shavers. Unless you guys see something that I'm not, leave it in the comment section. So it's gonna be tough to get like all these guys that we know are gonna have these monster floors in Allen and Achane and potentially Cook in one of these lineups. So let's do something a little bit different here. Let's put Allen, Achane, and Cook, the guys that we know we like. You know what? Let's put Kincaid in the captain again, like we did in week 1. That leaves us with Allen to Kincaid, and we got Cook. We got Achane on Miami. We got 8K left in salary to play with. Let's get that Bills D in this one. Leaves us with 2,300. We could put like Westbrook Akine in this lineup. Let's see, Westbrook Achane. Sorry, I'll go back and show you guys what the lineup looks like in a second here. I forgot to switch my tabs. All right, so we got Kincaid in the captain in this one. We got Josh Allen, Achane, and Cook. That's where we started because we wanted to get these floor guys in there. Kincaid in the captain gives us enough salary to put the Bills D in there. But let's say we don't want to put the Bills D. Maybe they're a little too chalky for us. Let's get Prater in there instead. Leaves us with 3,100. You know, we got options like Wright or Davis at least in that one. Wright's coming back. I don't know how much usage he's going to get this week, especially with Ollie Gordon in there. I would imagine Ollie Gordon's going to be more the goal line guy. So that, you know, that's an option there. I'm trying to think, like, if we wanted to do something with, you know, maybe the Bills D in the captain. Let's say that, you know, like it's a blowout situation. You know, Allen, Achane, Cook. It's a blowout situation. Bills D is scoring more touchdowns than the offense, so we got the offense kind of here on the flex bench. Kincaid, we can get Kincaid in this one too. That leaves us with 2,100 again in that Westbrook Achane, Hill. If we wanted to go with a backup, maybe Samuel is active for this one. Looks like he was inactive in that last one. We could swap out Kincaid with Knox, maybe if we wanted to, and gives us 5,100 to play with. So we could put Prater in this one, or Josh Palmer. Gives us a few more options, but I don't like doing that. Like I like Elijah Moore in this one too. Let's put Moore in this one with his elevated snap count with that blowout last week. That gives us Malik Washington, Ray Davis in this one too, who I don't mind. You know, I don't mind either of those guys. So that gives us some options with the Bills defense and the captain. I think it is a week where we can consider that. Going to be a interesting week. If you Miami has enough weapons so that they could be, you know, turn it around, be competitive in this one. They had a player only meeting this week and all that kind of stuff. For whatever reason, like Miami is turning on McDaniels as that coach. Like he brought them to the playoffs 2 years in a row. It was not his fault that Tua got hurt. Tua is the problem with his inability to stay healthy or protect himself. You see him sliding like head first, even after all those concussion issues last year. McDaniels isn't the problem here. It's really like Tua, even though he's been great when he's healthy, but he just can't stay healthy. And the coaching staff looks like they're going to get punished for the situation potentially, which would leave a team with a great opportunity to pick up McDaniels. You know, like one of these teams with a you know, like not a great head coach like Tennessee or something like that. It leave him in the queue for next season. But you know, we'll see how that plays out. But if Miami rallies around, you know, like maybe the coach or rallies around that players only meeting and comes alive in this one, you know, you can definitely build game scripts around that. I try to do that with the Jalen Waddle one, but just something to keep in mind. You know, play around with your Miami win scripts because that's what wins these types of tournaments because everybody's going to be playing the Bills blowout situation. Just keep that in mind. Hit that like button. Get me to 50 likes. I'll put my favorite plays in the comment section later on. Maybe I read something that makes me lean in that Miami direction. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Looking for 1,900 subscribers. I need about 50 to get there. So help me out and get access to that secret weapon. And sign up using my promo codes. That helps me out too. BetMGM, you want to use Heater 1500. And Underdog, you want to use the promo code SEEK. So keep that in mind, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later on. I'm going to put out a short for Underdog too to help you guys out who are signing up there. I'll put out a short pick'em video for that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.